My Hero Academia is finally back with another episode of Season 5, but this time it's straight from the manga. As the first real episode of the season, we couldn't be more excited to give you our episode breakdown. Before we get into it, we would really appreciate it if you hit that subscribe button to follow our weekly My Hero Academia episode breakdowns, like if you enjoyed this video, and comment what your favorite part of the episode was. We appreciate your support. The episode started off with a wounded Endeavor moments after his victory over the most dangerous Nomu we've seen so far, High End. He surprised us all by appearing out of nowhere, which we have to question as we last saw the League of Villains Warpgate Kurogiri being captured by Gran Torino last season. Hawks tells Endeavor to rest and that he will look after Dabi for them both. Dabi confronts the two heroes and asks for some leniency since they just beat a Nomu stronger than he is. Despite this, he charges the two heroes with lit flames. Mirko, the number 5 hero, runs into the scene, thumping the ground and triggering a powerful blast that prevents Dabi from charging ahead. Dabi, realizing that he's at a disadvantage, requests assistance from someone called Ujiko. When he does, a warp comes from his mouth, just like how Bakugo was captured again by All For One in Season 3, Episode 9. As we mentioned before, this escape method is surprising since, last we saw, Kurogiri and All For One are in the custody of the heroes. Does that mean that this Ujiko has filled in with new warping capabilities? We have a feeling that whoever this Ujiko character is, we're definitely going to see more of him going forward. Missing from the manga in this moment is a scene where Mirko sniffs her leg like a rabbit after kicking the substance coming out of Dabi's mouth that allowed him to teleport. It's fair to say that the anime hasn't done Mirko justice in this episode, but we hope to see more of her this season as she looks like a really fun character to be around. After the opening runs, we were left shocked as we turned to Hawks meeting Dabi in some abandoned warehouse. Hawks was clearly agitated and threatened Dabi with a sword-like feather to his throat, as we learned that Hawks had been conspiring with Dabi. Instead of the original plan where a Nomu was supposed to fight a hero in a factory near the coast, Hawks was clearly irritated that Dabi sent an extremely powerful Nomu in the main district. Dabi, acting as villains do, with literally zero rules and the obvious fact that he wasn't going to follow a plan, explains that he, surprisingly, changed his mind and reminds Hawks that he brought the number 1 hero to battle the Nomu, so it wasn't a fair test of the Nomu's skills. Dabi inquires about the battle's 0 fatality count, as it doesn't inspire faith in Hawks' villainy. But Hawks replies that he did that to ensure that his image and popularity as a hero doesn't get affected in any way, in order to carry on being an insider for the League. The two part ways, with Dabi saying he wouldn't introduce Hawks to his leader, but will contact him again when needed. It's pretty safe to assume that while this looked cut and dry, after living these past months with Attack on Titan in our mind, we already had our doubts about how true Hawks being a double agent was. And unsurprisingly, we saw Hawks with the president of Public Safety Commission, which you can think of as the My Heroes version of S.H.I.E.L.D. from the Marvel Universe. In case you don't remember her, we last saw her in Season 4, Episode 24, telling the viewers about how this is a new age of heroes after All Might's retirement. It's shockingly revealed that they want Hawks to act as a double agent for them, because during the hideout raid, the Public Safety Commission had to concentrate on protecting lives, but they were unable to collect any knowledge on the villain's skills. Hawks was considered as the perfect choice for the double agent position due to his motivation as a hero to just get the job done and not seek fame or prestige. It is definitely nice to see Hawks being back on the side of heroes, but it's looking pretty clear that Dabi already knows he's a double agent. Dabi eventually recalls who Snatch was while standing on the coast. He remembers Snatch telling him whether he ever thinks of the families of his victims, and he remarks that thinking of what Snatch asked him made him insane, wiping a drop of blood out from under his left eye's staple. This was an important moment in learning about Dabi's character, as it's almost confirmed that he had lost his family before choosing the path of villainy. He also mentioned Endeavor as Enji Todoroki, meaning that it's looking like he had some sort of relationship with him, whether it be by blood or a significant event. One theory we have brewing is that Endeavor did something to Dabi and his family in the past, and that the drop of blood from his eye earlier was mixed with an actual tear. This might be symbolism used by Kohei Horikoshi to show the fans that Dabi was actually really hurt by the words of Snatch. Hawks apologizes to Endeavor for his injury as they both exit the hospital. Endeavor claims that his injuries are solely his own, and asks Hawks if their meeting with the advanced Nomu was simply a coincidence. Hawks, taken aback by his claim, blames the assault on their high-profile presence in the city. we get a warm-hearted flashback where we see Hawks saving people while he was just a child, incorporating an adorable Endeavor action figure. We've yet to see what Endeavor did in Fukuoka, but it's clear the residents are big fans of him over there. The anime unfortunately cut out 2 really strong scenes here again, as we were meant to see Recovery Girl healing Endeavor in the hospital, and telling him about how she must take care of the new #1 hero. A little bit of an awkward moment for Endeavor since he isn't used to getting such treatment. We were also meant to see Mirko hopping off and chasing the League without any real sense of direction or clue, but it would have been heartwarming and given character depth for both Endeavor and Hawks to animate their reactions. But unfortunately, Studio Bones had other plans. We see Endeavor rocking his new Shoto cosplay, a tremendous use of symbolism by the writer showcasing just how much Endeavor has changed, growing a bit closer to his son every day. As Natsu and Shoto slurp noodles in front of their father, Fuyumi desperately reveals how they had all agreed to welcome him home. She tells Natsu and Shoto out loud that their father is trying to reflect on his past and show more compassion for his family, and that they can keep their resentment for him secret as Endeavor voices that he can hear her. Natsu vents his frustrations on his father, telling him that, though his mother and sisters seem to have forgiven him, he sees him as the same person who abandoned his children and left them to listen to their mother scream and brother weep. He also mentions something that happened to their older brother Toya and blames his father for it. But we unfortunately don't get an explanation here. It's looking like we'll get to see more of Endeavor's past this season, getting a chance to see what broke his potential superhero family apart. We then see Itadori Yuji on the TV reminding fans how awesome their new #1 hero is, but more importantly Endeavor trying to make amends and finding Natsu alone to talk to him. While we wish it stuck around on this scene, there was more immediate matters on hand as we get to see a continuation of the strange dream from last season's finale. Deku notices that there are only 7 One-For-All predecessors beside him, while there should be 8. We're only given 2 evil-looking shadows of the predecessor, eerily foreshadowing their potential role to play in the near future. It's interesting that All Might wasn't present here, but it's likely that he could represent the individual seemingly covered in flames. Deku recognizes All For One's voice and turns to see him and his brother complaining over society's new state of affairs, which has been brought about by the introduction of quirks. They never referred to the powers as quirks here, but called them meta-powers, showcasing how much society has changed since the introduction of quirks. A man with a quirk that turns his teeth into fangs, rendering him an outcast in society, and another man who is quirkless, unfortunately helpless to protect himself against a mob of criminals with quirks. All For One uses the 2 men as reminders of why his influence is so vital for humanity by destroying the first man's quirk and granting the second the ability, thereby fixing what the 2 men believe to be flawed with themselves. In exchange, All For One requests the 2 men's allegiance towards him. The younger brother, frustrated, attempted to charge towards All For One, but was stopped by his personal bodyguard. A confusing moment as the man we saw was Gigantomachia, but it's definitely not the same monster we saw near Gran Torino last season. It's more than likely All For One used his quirk-giving abilities to shape him into the absolute monstrosity that he is now. All For One tells his imprisoned brother about a group of people who refused to join him and were executed because his supporters misinterpreted his wishes as orders to kill them. As a parallel to the present case, All For One refers to a comic book that the 2 brothers had read where a villain takes over everything and molds the world according to his own wishes. The younger brother told him that he didn't read the whole story and that the heroes eventually won. In typical anime world fashion, these manga readers are always out here spoiling for anime onlys, and All For One was visibly angry with his younger brother, forcefully inserting a quirk befitting to his weak body into him. All For One's brother unexpectedly turns towards Deku, saying he wishes he could show him more, but cannot because Deku can only harness 20% of One-For-All so far. A missing scene here from the manga showcases Deku remembering what All Might said about these visions and realizes that by communicating with All For One's brother, he is doing something that All Might said wasn't possible. Deku is reassured by him that he will not be alone, but was asked to be careful since he is already beyond the point of singularity. There was no explanation into what this singularity meant for Deku, but if you take a careful look back, there was reference to this concept on Season 4, Episode 17. We saw Seiji Shishikura explaining that the reason behind the young kid's power level could be attributed to the quirk singularity doomsday theory. He states that as years pass, quirks combine more and more, and that each generation produces stronger and more complicated quirks, to the point that they can be difficult to manage. If this is true, then Deku is indeed in some big trouble, as One For All is on its 9th evolution. The episode ended with the same scene we saw in the Season 4 finale, a troubled Deku releasing his powers without conscious thought, even breaking one of his precious All Might action figures and the window in the room. With the League of Villains plotting, Deku's powers growing exponentially, and seeing Endeavor's abilities reach its limits, it's exciting to see where this season will go. Until next week, we hope you enjoyed this week's breakdown of My Hero Academia, and we'll be back next week for Season 5, Episode 2. Until then, don't forget to toss us a like, subscribe, and feel free to comment below if we missed anything. Also, check out our ReZero and Attack on Titan playlists for past episodes. Thanks for watching.